So this video was supposed to be up a few days ago, but I've had some serious internet issues, so I haven't actually been able to upload it. But I'm excited for you guys to finally see my ranking for every movie that I saw released in 2021. I saw 66 films throughout the year, and I had a pretty good experience with most of them. Of course, there are some that I like way, way more than others, but the majority of them were pretty solid movies. Now, there are some that I wasn't able to see, and it's killed me that I haven't been able to see some of these. Licorice Pizza and The Worst Person in the World are the two specifically that have killed me, and it's really I'm just depressed that I have not been able to see them yet. And I'm seeing everyone else I follow on like Twitter and Letterboxd watching them, and it's killing me. But whatever, I haven't been able to see them. But yeah, I am satisfied with the amount of movies that I watched, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this video. Let's get into it. I was debating on whether or not I should put this in last place, because you'll see why when you see the next movie in the list. But this was so bad. I saw everybody just absolutely trashing on it before I watched it, and I was hoping that I'd at least get some entertainment out of it, but there was no entertainment to be found. It was just pain. The message was awful. Most of the performances were pretty rough, although I do think Kaitlyn Dever did a pretty great job. The songs, they were some of the time they were catchy, but most of the time they were kind of underwhelming, and even the times when they were catchy, they were just moving forward a plot that was abysmal, so I didn't really care. And yeah, that's about it. I gotta say, before we get further into this, you might notice that I'm not really going to talk much on any of these. I have a ton to get through, so I don't really have time to sit and give a bunch of in-depth thoughts on them. So yeah, this is just kind of my quick general thoughts on each movie. Now, I was highly debating putting He's All That in last place, but it was so entertaining. It was so bad, but in a fun way. It was really fun. And so I couldn't put it in last because Dear Evan Hansen was just bad. There was no entertainment to be found there. He's All That was horrible, but it was really funny. So I didn't really care. I had a good time with it, so whatever. Chaos Walking was one of the biggest disappointments of the year for me, not because I even thought that it'd be that good, but because of the missed potential. The cast was really, really solid, and most of them did an okay job with their performances in the movie. You know, Tom Holland, Daisy Ridley, Mads Mikkelsen, they were all good. The problem came with the absolute abundance of plot holes and the complete waste of a really cool concept that I really wish could have been explored better. I think with a tighter script, this could have been a great movie, but it just completely missed the mark for me in almost every way. The Woman in the Window was a movie that I had zero expectations of, but I still somehow ended up getting underwhelmed by it. Amy Adams gives a pretty solid lead performance, and the cinematography looks pretty nice, but I don't know, there's just not a lot here to enjoy. It's just a really bland ripoff of Rear Window that does not work nearly as well as that does, and it has a laughably bad twist at the end that completely soured the entire experience more than it already was. The Little Things is another one that I was really disappointed by because my sister went and saw it in theaters when it came out and said it was really good, so I went into it pretty excited because we watch a lot of movies together and I trust her opinion. I came out of this extremely bored and just wanting to fall asleep. This movie puts me to sleep. It was really upsetting. Again, the cast was all solid. Denzel Washington and Jared Leto were both really good here. But I don't know, it just kind of felt like a very typical 90s thriller like Seven, but not done nearly as well and not having nearly enough stuff that keeps it, captivating like those movies did. It just wasn't great. It was just really boring. Space Jam: A New Legacy is a weird one because I feel like a lot of people tried, or at least the people in front of the camera, the actors really gave it their all. Don Cheadle was really, he felt like he was trying way too hard for what this movie was, but it was entertaining. LeBron James sucked, but he was giving it an effort. I feel like everyone tried. But then when you get to the director, Malcolm Lee, he did not. I don't know. The directing was extremely bland and boring and just super uninspired and not great. I don't know what I was expecting from the man that made like Scary Movie 5, but this just wasn't great. It was just very bland and it felt like a massive Warner Brothers commercial. Here Are the Young Men is a movie that I only watched for Anya Taylor-Joy, and that's the only reason anyone will ever remember it. If you want an Irish version of Fight Club that's extremely watered down, go for it. But other than that, there's no reason to watch this. Marvel put out what might be the blandest movie of the year with Black Widow. It's extremely boring, and it's exactly what you'd expect from every other MCU movie ever. It's not great, and especially because Black Widow's story is really over in the MCU, it felt really pointless and like it didn't need to happen. The only point of this was to introduce Yelena into the MCU, and she's cool. She was the best part of this, easily, but I don't know. I just didn't like this as a whole. It's insane to me that Don't Look Up is actually getting awards talk because it doesn't deserve it at all. For every great performance you have, like Leonardo DiCaprio, who really killed it, you have Mark Rylance giving the worst performance he could possibly give. And then the editing is an absolute mess and it gives me a headache. And I guess it's supposed to make you feel anxious, but it didn't hit for me at all. I thought it was just bad. And yeah, it was just a big waste of Timothée Chalamet, which is always upsetting. Without Remorse is right there with Black Widow for maybe the most bland movie of the year. It's exactly what you'd think from like an action thriller by Tom Clancy. It's exactly what you think, nothing more, nothing less. The only reason I have it as a 4 out of 10 and not as a 5 is because the twist is really bad. But it's funny. It's kind of funny, but it's really stupid. So, whatever. I mean, if you want a really basic, kind of turn your brain off action thriller, I guess, then go for it, I suppose. But it's just not for me, I guess. Yes Day is perfectly harmless, and I don't know, there's not much else to say. It's a perfectly fine family movie. It's cute enough. It gets the job done, and I'll leave it at that. I guess it was my introduction to Jenna Ortega, which is kind of fun because now she's like becoming one of my favorite actresses out there, like in the moment, at the moment. So, but other than that, there's nothing to note here. Malcolm and Marie was probably the most exhausting movie of the year. It was just two people just screaming at each other about a bunch of stuff that I didn't really care about. It wasn't great. There were some interesting conversations to be had, and I thought the two lead performances were pretty solid, and the directing looked pretty nice from Sam Levinson, but overall, I just wasn't super into this. Army of the Dead is another extremely disappointing movie. When this came out, I was still high off of the Snyder cut, so I thought Zack Snyder was really going to deliver here. I thought the trailers looked like a ton of fun. The poster looked like a lot of fun. It just looked like it was going to be a great time, but it wasn't. It was really boring and overly long, and it felt so, I don't know, it was just the worst of Zack Snyder's style, in my opinion. The thing that really made it disappointing for me, though, is that there were moments that I really loved. There were some characters I absolutely loved here. There were some moments that really hit emotionally, and there was some good comedy in here too. But I don't know, it was overly long, and it could have been a really fun, like 1.5 hour long movie, 2 hour long movie, but he had to stretch it out to 2.5 hours, and I just don't think it hit that way. I'll be honest, I forgot that Those Who Wish Me Dead even existed until I sat down to record this video, so I don't really have a lot to say on it. It was what I remember of it. It had a couple of good lead performances, but it was just really bland. It was really boring. Not much to leave you remembering from it. It's very forgettable. It's just very forgettable. I'll leave it at that. Jacob's Wife is another movie I completely forgot I even watched. I remember this being kind of fun, but also pretty laughably bad at points. I don't know, just again, kind of forgettable all around, even though Barbara Crampton was incredible as she normally is. Bad Trip was a movie that was pretty all over the place for me. For every hilarious bit that hit perfectly, there was a bit that just didn't at all, and it relied on some pretty dumb humor that I just wasn't into. And I don't know, it could have been better, and it really makes me sad seeing all the great reviews that this got. And I don't know, I didn't get it, I guess. Free Guy had some fun moments, but I don't know. It just I wasn't into it. A lot of it came down to the humor, down to the comedy that just really did not hit for me. And I'm not super into the whole like, the whole reference thing that this movie loves to do. That's not my kind of humor, I guess. I don't love it. I don't think pulling out Captain America's shield is all that great. And personally, and I know there's a lot of people who loved it, and I'm glad that they loved it, and I see why they loved it. It just wasn't for me. Eternals was a weird movie. For every incredible thing, there was also just a thing I wasn't super into. I think a lot of that came down to the length. It felt really boring at times, extremely uninteresting, but it was pretty solid a lot of the time. I think it looks great. The performances were really good, but I think it was too ambitious for its own good. It tried too many things with not enough time, I guess. I think it would have been better as like a mini series, but as just one movie, I don't think it really hit. I know I've been saying this a lot this video, but Werewolves Within might actually be the most disappointing movie of the year for me. Scare Me by Josh Rubin, his last movie, his directorial debut, was absolutely phenomenal. I think it's a hilarious movie. I really love it, and it's one of my favorite horror comedies, probably of the decade. Well, it came out in 2020, so I guess of the 2010s, if it was in the 2010s, you know what I mean, of the past decade. It was like one of my favorite horror comedies, if not my favorite. But something about this just didn't hit for me. I don't think it worked as a murder mystery a lot of the time. The humor was significantly worse than it was in Scare Me. A lot of the performances were really fun, and the concept was pretty great, and there were some really great moments. But I don't know, it just didn't hit for me for some reason, and I'm seeing all the great reviews for this and just feeling like an insane person for feeling this way, and I'm really sad that I do feel this way, but whatever. Scare Me was so good, and this had a lot of potential, so I'll still see whatever Josh Rubin wants to do. I'll be right there for it day one, but this just wasn't it for me, unfortunately. Godzilla vs. Kong was exactly what I expected it to be. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. It was just Godzilla and King Kong just beating the crap out of each other. The last 45 minutes in Hong Kong was a blast, and I really had a great time with it. I think a lot of the reason why it's this low on the list, and it's a 5 out of 10 for me, just comes down to Millie Bobby Brown and her podcaster friend or whatever. It wasn't good at all. It was seriously brought down the movie consistently. Like every time they came on screen, I audibly groaned because I wanted to get back to the cool stuff that King Kong was doing, and I think the dynamic between Kong and that kid was really great. But they brought the movie down so much. If you think I'm if I'm over exaggerating, I mean, just watch the movie. They're so much less interesting than everything else going on, and it brought the movie down that far for me, unfortunately. But it was exactly what I kind of wanted it to be, so whatever. I had a good time. In a really shocking twist, Army of Thieves, which is essentially a spin off of Army of the Dead, was better than Army of the Dead. I actually liked this, which I wasn't expecting because Dieter, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was one of my least favorite characters of Army of the Dead. I thought he was obnoxious and unfunny, but he was okay here. I mean, the biggest issue with this movie still was the comedy not hitting at all. But I don't know. It had a lot of great moments. It was a fun little heist movie, and the ending hit me emotionally way harder than I thought it would. And it actually made me want to rewatch Army of the Dead, which I haven't done yet, but I probably will soon. And I hope I like it a little more. But no, the ending of this movie genuinely made me want to go watch Army of the Dead again, which is not something that I ever thought that I would actually say. Willy's Wonderland was it's kind of like Godzilla vs. Kong. It was exactly what I expected it would be, and it's exactly what I wanted it to be. It was just Nick Cage beating the crap out of some animatronics, out of some like Freddy Fazbear knockoffs. It was a great time. I had a great time. The writing was extremely weak, and all the characters outside of Nick Cage were really bad, especially the character like the I don't know if they were teens. They didn't feel like teens. They felt a little older than that. But whatever, those characters that kind of broke into the place, they weren't good at all, like in any way. Most of them were really stupid and just not good, not well written. But I wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to see Nick Cage beat the crap out of, some crappy animatronics, and that's what I got. It was a lot of fun for that. Although I do wish Nick Cage said at least a single word, which he doesn't. He doesn't say a single word. I'm not exaggerating that. He literally does not talk once. But it's fun. I don't care. It was a good time. So yeah. The Forever Purge was kind of disappointing in some ways because I do really like the Purge movies, but it was good. It was fine. It worked for a Purge movie. It's exactly what I kind of expect out of a Purge movie. It brought the social commentary, and it brought the fun action and the well shot scenes. It was a good time. It was a good Purge movie, and if you're a Purge fan, you'll like this one. I've never been a huge Conjuring fan, and I don't know, this just didn't hit super hard for me, but I still did enjoy it. It was just extremely not scary most of the time, even though I do think that waterbed scene was absolutely phenomenal, but I do wish it wasn't spoiled for me in the trailers, but that was a great scene. That was actually kind of spooky. And I think the idea of having a human villain was really interesting, and this one did some interesting things with that. But overall, it wasn't great, and it was kind of disappointing, even though I'm not a super huge fan of these, so maybe I'm not the right person to ask on the quality of this. Now, I saw some people mad at Mortal Kombat when it came out about how bad it was. I don't know what they were expecting. I don't know if they were expecting some incredible, some deep, well-written story. I was expecting some fun like banter, and some fun action with incredible gore, and that's exactly what I got. This thing, yeah, it's not the greatest story ever. It's not the most well written thing on planet Earth. The main character is extremely boring and bland, but it's fun, man. This is really fun. I was not feeling Vivo at all for the first half of it. At all. Like, even a little bit. But as it went on, I started to see what was going on more and more, and it started to click with me a little more. And by the end, I was loving it. And again, the first half didn't hit, so that's why it's just low. But the second half really did. I loved the whole ending bit. It was really fun. I really enjoyed it. It was just a great little movie. Hot take coming. Hot take coming. Raya and the Last Dragon was extremely underwhelming. Even if it was good, it was a good movie, but it was not as great as most people will make you believe. I think that again, I'm saying this over and over, but a lot of it came down to the comedy being really, really forced. It was really forced and not funny at all, and just really groan worthy a lot of the time. I think Sisu was a really annoying and kind of obnoxious character personally. I know she has a lot of fans, but I'm not one of them. The animation looks incredible. I remember the music being pretty well. It's been a while since I've seen this, but I remember the music being pretty great, and the emotional moments really hit. But a lot of it came down to, I don't know, annoying characters and annoying humor, just kind of killing the whole experience for me. But again, it is still a good, well-made movie. Stowaway is another really forgettable movie, but it was a pretty decent one at the same time. It had some really tense moments that was really well done, but it's not much that's going to keep you remembering. But the cast does slap, and it's interesting for what it is. I was never bored. I went into Old expecting to absolutely despise it because the only thing I've ever seen from M. Night Shyamalan, and I know I need to see more from this man. I know I need to see his classics. But the only two movies I've ever seen from him were The Happening and The Last Airbender. So I was going on with really low expectations. I saw pretty mixed reviews, and the trailer did not look good. But no, this was actually really solid. I thought the performances were really good. I mean, the writing was a little hit or miss, but it was solid for the most part. I do think this would be way higher up on the list if it wasn't for the ending kind of falling flat on its face. But for the most part, it was really solid. I think this movie is definitely carried by the concept. It's really, really carried by the concept. And the concept is fantastic. So, I mean, it's a good thing that's so good. I've seen some serious hate for There's Someone Inside the House, but, like, this was pretty solid. It's kind of exactly what you'd expect from a Netflix teen slasher, but, like, I I really liked it. And honestly, as long as Netflix keeps making teen slashers, I will keep watching them and I will probably keep loving them because teen slashers have just become my absolute comfort movie recently. Another hot take incoming: Encanto is good, but it could have been better. I think I'm just kind of sick of Disney's just doing the same thing over and over and over at this point. Kind of annoyed with it. I'm kind of sick of it. But this movie does hit harder than most of their newer stuff, honestly. Probably my favorite thing they've done since, like, I don't know, like the Moana Zootopia days, like since 2016. I mean, it's better than Ralph Breaks the Internet, better than Frozen 2, better than Raya and the Last Dragon. This is the best thing they've done in a while, and the music absolutely slaps, but everyone knows that already because, I mean, it's everywhere. The music from this is everywhere. The music's great. The performances are great. I do wish there are a couple members of the family that I wish were given a little more time to kind of, be characters, but it was a solid Disney movie. It just could have been better, honestly. It wasn't my favorite thing ever. Same kind of hot take coming in with In the Heights. I thought this was pretty good. It just wasn't really my thing a lot of the time. I don't know. It was fun. It was a fun time, and it was really well written, well performed. The music, again, absolutely slapped. But I don't know, man. It wasn't for me, I guess. Another hot take coming, but in the opposite way. Cherry is really good, guys. I swear, I'm like the only human being on planet Earth who actually thinks this. But Cherry is good. I enjoy it. It's not nothing that I'm really gonna watch a bunch because it's a pretty heavy movie. But I don't know. Tom Holland absolutely kills it here. I personally think it's well written. I think the directing by the Russo brothers is really interesting. I think this is a good step for both Tom Holland and the Russo brothers to kind of break out of that MCU shell that they've kind of put themselves in. I think it's pretty good. Wish Dragon was kind of the same story as Vivo. The first half was not hitting in the slightest, but then the second half was absolutely incredible. So it kind of sits at this weird place where I liked it, but it could have been better if the first half was better. It was pretty good. It was kind of, I mean, yeah, it's basically Aladdin, but it was good. It was a good movie. Sony was really on top of their game this year, I think. Oxygen was a really cool French thriller movie that came out on Netflix. That was really interesting. It was a really interesting concept. Most of the movie is completely confined to this one, like, claustrophobic space, and it doesn't get boring at all. It's really interesting. It's really intense. And the twist at the end is absolutely mind-shattering. I loved it. I don't remember a whole lot about No Sudden Move. It doesn't stick out a ton to me. It was just really solid. It was really good. The performances were absolutely incredible, specifically from Don Cheadle. I thought he was magnificent here. and I thought it was just a really well made, well put together heist movie. It's not something that stands out to me a ton. It's just really good. I wish I loved this a little more than I did, but and some people absolutely, most people I've seen put this in like top 10 of the year. I don't think Shiva Baby was that good, but I do think it was pretty great. It was really intense. It was very low stakes, but still felt very intense and very nerve-wracking and just really good. It was really well made, well put together. Great performances, specifically from the lead, Rachel Sennott. I don't know if I'm saying that name right. I'm sorry, but she was fantastic in it, and it was just it's really small. It's a really short movie. It's like 78 minutes, but yeah, this was really well made, and I believe it was. Yeah, this was the directorial debut from Emma Seligman. I don't know. Again, no idea if I'm saying that right, but it was really good, and yeah, I'm excited to see what she does next. Luca was the latest Pixar movie, and it was great. It was really good. It's just again, it kind of like Shiva Baby, and that's not that's not a thing I thought I'd say, but you know, this is extremely low stakes, like the most low stakes thing Pixar could have made, and that made me happy. I liked how low stakes it was because I feel like everything they make now is kind of have these big stakes to it, and it's nice to kind of have a really calm, chill movie from them. This is a really chilled out movie, and it was a great time because of that. Malignant was a movie that so many people were so split on, but it was so good. It was so fun. Even the first like half of it, the first chunk of it was good. And I've seen people say, "Oh, it was so bad." The first bit, and then the twist comes, and that's when it gets fun. No, it's just good all the way through. And James Wan is an absolute horror master, and he's incredible. This man is a legend, and I mean, this is just him making what he wants to make, which is really cool. Coming off of Aquaman, that they just said, okay, Warner Brothers just let him make what he wanted to make, and you can tell that that's what happened, and it's really good because of it. I've never seen the original. I think it's Polish, the Polish version of Guilty, the original. But I really want to now because this was really solid. I thought it was super intense at some points. I think Jake Gyllenhaal gave a pretty solid performance, and it was well made. But I have heard that it's extremely similar to the Polish version. Like they didn't really change that much around. So I don't know. I'm interested to see the Polish version now after seeing this because this was really good. Man, Nobody. I watched this. I watched this really early in the year. It feels like forever ago this came out. But I mean, I don't really have a lot of substance to say on this. It was really fun. It's a fun action movie. It's like if someone made a John Wick movie, but it wasn't taking itself seriously at all, like in any way. And it was really fun. I really liked it. I really enjoyed that. It was really solid. It was extremely short. It didn't overstay its welcome. It was just a fun time. For those of you who aren't in the know, Hilda is phenomenal, an absolutely terrific show. It's one of my favorite animated shows of the recent memory, outside of stuff like Infinity Train, which is obviously that's a masterpiece. So that's a whole other story. But Hilda was great. I loved the first two seasons. I'm extremely excited for season 3, and this made me even more excited. I really enjoyed this movie. It's not as good as the best episodes of the show, but it was a lot of fun. It was very heartwarming. It was a very solid and just satisfying story, and it wrapped up that the season 2 cliffhanger really well, and I'm just really excited for season 3. It's so good. If you haven't seen Hilda, just hop on it. It's so delightful. Shang-Chi was a really solid movie. I really loved this one a lot, actually. This probably has the best action in the MCU. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. The action is phenomenal here, and I think that's where it shines the most. And I think Shang-Chi is a really interesting character. I'm excited to see what they do with him in the future, and I really hope they do more with Katie in the future, played by Awkwafina. She was one of my favorite parts of this movie. She was really good. Yeah, I know a lot of people think that I don't know, she's too much, and I thought she was too much in Raya and the Last Dragon when she was playing Sisu. But man, she killed it here. I'm really excited to see if they do more with her, and I'm just excited to see more of this kind of, I don't know, this movie. I'm just excited to see more of these characters and what they do with it. Dune really does have its issues, but I don't know, man. Seeing this in a theater really hit, and I think it has its issues with like explaining what's going on because I still don't 100% know what happened in some of this movie. It's kind of hard to piece together sometimes, but this was so So good. It was such a spectacle. Probably the biggest movie of the year in that way. And I still loved it for its problems. Spider-Man No Way Home was pretty great, but not as great as people seem to give it credit for. It's in the top 250 on Letterboxd. It's sitting at the 140th most well-reviewed movie on Letterboxd right now. It's sitting at a 4.2 average, which is insane, and it does not deserve that over some other movies. But it is really good. I'm not going to spoil nothing here, even though it's been out for a while now, but I don't know. It's just an extremely satisfying movie. It's an absolute crowd pleaser, and there are some things that don't work for me in here, some plot things that I don't love, but for the most part, it's really solid. And I mean, you can't go wrong watching this. It's just a fun time. It's a great time. And real quick, as a reference point for how well reviewed this thing is on Letterboxd, it is above just some of the ones immediately under it are like Star Wars: A New Hope, the first one, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, Terminator 2, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Moonlight, The Lion King, Vertigo, Akira, Back to the Future, Citizen Kane, The Departed. Yeah, it's not that good. It isn't that good, but whatever. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Saint Maud was the first movie I watched of the year, and it has stuck with me for over a year now. This ending has stuck with me, and the whole movie, I mean, the movie as a whole, has really stuck with me. The ending is one of the most impactful things I have seen in a while, and it really hit. It's just really shocking. It's really surprising. It's beautiful in an absolutely messed up way. And that's just kind of how I would describe this entire movie. It's really short. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's really good though. It's really, really great. While I loved Candyman the first time I saw it in theaters, I absolutely adored it first time I saw it in theaters. It was near the top of this list. I watched it a second time once it came out on streaming. I didn't love it as much, but I still do think it's really great. I just don't think a lot of the plot stuff made a ton of sense here like it should have. I really, really, really wish it was like 20 minutes longer because it could have been much better because they would have had more time to like actually explain what's happening, which didn't really get to do a whole lot. But this was really good still. It was a really great, I don't know if I'd even call this, it doesn't feel like a slasher movie. It doesn't feel like a typical slasher. I wouldn't consider this a slasher, I don't think. I'm extremely excited to see what Nia DaCosta does next, and as a little, I don't know, if anyone is making a movie and is watching this, just know, cast Coleman Domingo in anything and I'll watch it and I'll probably enjoy it because he's just wonderful. He's just a wonderful man. Cruella got some serious hate this year, which is crazy. I thought this was incredible. It's got some issues, sure, but I mean, it's been like the CGI dogs. I mean, look at those things. They look horrible. But I don't know, man. It slaps. This movie is so good. Emma Stone was a perfect Cruella de Vil, and I thought the directing looked really great. It was really fun. It was just a fun heist movie. Man, this was good. This was really good. Looking back on it, the more I talk about this, the more I remember how great it was. It's just so fun. It's such a fun time. It doesn't deserve a lot of I don't know, the negativity that some people really put towards it. The Green Knight I mean, some people would probably like to see me put this even higher, but I don't for a couple reasons. I think that I don't know, it's maybe the best looking film of the year. There may be some movies coming up that would like have something to say about that, but this is maybe the best looking film of the year. I think the ending was absolutely like just absolute perfection. Was those last like 15 minutes were literally perfect and absolutely blew my mind. I don't know, I do think that this was kind of uninteresting at points. It was kind of hard to get into, but I don't know, once you get into it, it's really good. It's really, really good. I'm about to make a lot of people mad putting Spiral directly above The Green Knight because people hate this movie. People really hate this one. But it was fun, man. This was a lot of fun. Yeah, it's technically way worse than The Green Knight, and it's not even close. But it's way more fun. I had a much better time watching Spiral. I got to see it in theaters, and then I watched it as soon as it came out on streaming. I liked it even more as opposed to Candyman, where I liked it less. No, I like this even more. I thought it was even more fun. It's exactly what I wanted out of a new Saw movie, and it just makes me really excited to see where the franchise goes. They're really they're really turning it around, turning the ship around after Seven and after Jigsaw, both being probably my two least favorites of the series. they really turned it around, and I'm very excited to see what they do next. This was such a fun time. And another one that's probably going to make people mad because people hate this is Halloween Kills. This is another super fun movie. It's absolutely crazy to me that people hate this, but I do understand it more than Spiral. I mean, I understand hating both of these movies. Come on. They're not the most well-made movies. This is, if you wanted more story and more like great characters like you got in Halloween 2018, you are not getting it. You are just getting constant violence and just a constant bloodbath 100% of the time. But I loved it. I had a great time. It was really fun watching Michael Myers just go around and absolute just like, pop everybody into like these balloon, like everyone's like a balloon of meat, and Michael Myers just going around popping them. It's really fun. I really like it. And just saying, Allison is turning into one of the best final girls that we've had in like, I don't know, the last decade. I think she's really great. I think depending on how Halloween ends is she could end up being looked back on as like a classic final girl, and I would be okay with that because she's been really great in these two movies so far. Red Rocket was a really interesting movie, and I just want to say the people who are mad at the Licorice Pizza age gap are going to absolutely lose their minds when they watch this movie. But yeah, Simon Rex gives what is easily one of the best performances of the year, and this film was a really great look inside the mind of Mikey, and it's really impressive how he is a super awful person, but he's still charming and likable. Without that quality, this wouldn't have worked nearly as well as it did. I really loved it, and I recommend it to anyone, even though some people are probably going to get very mad at it. Unjustifiably, by the way, unjustifiably. Kristen Stewart gives what may be the best performance of the year, and I'm not exaggerating there. She absolutely killed it, and if she doesn't get nominated for an Oscar, I am going to actually lose it. I know award shows don't matter, but oh my god, she's been getting snubbed so hard by all the major award shows coming out right now. I don't know why. She gave she gave such a perfect performance in this movie, and I'm really just shocked that people aren't, giving her the credit that she deserves for it. Even though I've seen like, a lot of like the normal viewers are, but the award shows aren't, which is baffling, but whatever. This movie was really great. Kristen Stewart was phenomenal in it. Come On, Come On was one of the most heartwarming films of the year, and it's just insane to me that Joaquin Phoenix can really go from playing something like the Joker and then go straight into this movie. I mean, it just shows how great of an actor he is, and how he's one of the all-time greats. I've actually only seen a couple Wes Anderson films, and I really need to see more, because everything I've seen from this man is just fantastic so far. I've seen some people say that this movie is very style over substance, which I disagree with. Like, yeah, this looks insane. This movie is insane. The production design is phenomenal. The cinematography is up there for maybe the best of the year, but it still does have compelling and interesting characters, in my opinion. And all the little like short stories are all really well written and well acted and obviously well shot. They're just a near perfectly made movie. I loved it. Zola is my pick for the funniest movie of the year. This thing is just hilarious. It doesn't overstay its welcome at all, and it does way more with its premise than I really thought it would from the first trailer that I saw, because after I saw that first trailer, I went completely dark and then didn't know anything else about it going into it. But yeah, this is really fun, and it's, again, probably the funniest of the year, which I was not expecting going into it at all. Again, Coleman Domingo is phenomenal. As I alluded to earlier, I absolutely loved the Snyder Cut. I think that it definitely improved on the 2017 cut of it in nearly every way. There are still some issues here, and I do still think it could maybe be a little shorter. It could be trimmed a little bit, because 4 hours is a bit much, and I don't ever have time to actually watch it. But I'd rather have this than the 2017 cut. It fleshes everything out much more. Cyborg goes from like maybe the worst character to maybe the best character. So, I can't complain that much. This was really great. Once again, here comes another extremely hot take. The Matrix Resurrections is the best Matrix movie. This is one of those where I love it and I defend it, but I completely understand why so many people didn't like this. But I absolutely loved it. I had a great time with this. Seeing this in theaters was really one of my favorite theater experiences of the year. This was just a really fun time. I loved it a ton. Last Night in Soho was my most anticipated movie of the year for most of the year, and yeah, it lived up to that hype. I think the third act is for sure the weakest part of this movie, and I don't know, I'm not going to go super deep into this like I have in any of them, but if you want more deep thoughts on this, then I do have a quick review up of it. Yeah, I really love this thing. It's one of my favorites of the year, and Edgar Wright just is really great at what he does. The Last Duel did not deserve to bomb the way it did at all. This thing is phenomenal, and it really shows that Ridley Scott still knows exactly what he's doing. Now, I have not seen House of Gucci yet, and that might just suck, but this was really phenomenal. All of the cast did phenomenally, specifically Jodie Comer and Adam Driver. They were fantastic, and it told a really interesting story, and it's a movie I'm always down to rewatch. This thing is just fantastic. Now we get into the 10 out of 10s. And all of these movies coming up, I absolutely love, and it's really hard. My list for this top 7 is ever changing. It's constantly moving around, but this is just what I have it at as of right now. Fear Street Part 3 is my least favorite Fear Street, but it's I mean it's still phenomenal. If you want to break down on all 3 of the movies, I do recommend you go watch my video on it. It was the first video I actually uploaded to this channel, technically. I do think it had the weakest pacing of the bunch, but man, I think it really still hit. I think the last, the third act, was the most fun moment of the entire trilogy. It was just a blast, and they really nailed the time period of this one way harder than I thought they would. Not as hard as something like The Witch, but they did really nail it. Now, Fear Street Part 1 was originally my favorite of the bunch, but not anymore. Not after rewatching them. Fear Street Part 1 is still phenomenal. It doesn't have that aspect of Part 2 and 3 where it really hits a time period super well, cuz this doesn't it's in the 90s and you feel it's in the 90s, but it doesn't really have to try as hard. So you don't really feel it that hard. Everyone absolutely killed it here, and it just man, these bunch of movies makes me so happy. There's not much to say. Again, go watch my video on them. The Suicide Squad was not a movie I was expecting to love as much as I did, but this thing hit so hard. Not only did all of the comedy hit perfectly and all of the performances hit perfectly, this thing got emotional. It got really emotional. The emotional moments really hit for me. Ratcatcher 2, I can't remember if it's 2 or 2.0. I can't remember, but she's one of my favorite DCU characters now. She was phenomenal here. I mean, Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is phenomenal as always. I don't know, man. This was so good. This was so good. My favorite DCEU movie by a wide margin. As much as I love Snyder Cut, this is way better than it. This is way better than Snyder Cut. Fear Street Part 2 is for now my favorite Fear Street. I think it most accurately captures the time period the best of the trilogy. Sadie Sink gives an absolutely phenomenal performance here, and it reminds me a lot of Haley Steinfeld in The Edge of 17 or Jenna Ortega in The Fallout, where it's this young person giving an absolutely phenomenal performance, and it feels like they're breaking out from what they normally do, and it just makes me want them to be in every movie ever from now on. By the way, the Fallout quick review, will be coming out in a couple days, so stay on the lookout for that. Now, getting into our top 3, we should kick it off with Petite Maman. I think I'm pronouncing that right. This is just the most pleasant movie of the year, and it worked in the fantasy elements way better than I thought it ever would. I was already extremely hyped to watch this, but it was even better than I was expecting, and it fits way more into its super short runtime than you'd think it would be able to. For literally being an hour and 12 minutes, it does a lot more than you'd think it could, and I mean, I highly recommend anyone who can see this does. Titane is the most messed up movie of the year and the most insane movie of the year, but that's why I loved it. I don't really know how to describe my feelings on this perfectly. It's just absolutely insane. It blends a lot of different feelings together perfectly, and it does a lot of different things, and it does all of them literally perfectly. This is truly just a phenomenal experience that I highly recommend anybody check out. I have no idea how to pronounce the director's name, but I absolutely loved Raw, and I absolutely loved this, so I'm so excited to see what she does next. And my favorite movie of the year is The Mitchells vs. the Machines. There's just something about this movie that just hits harder every time I watch it. I've seen this about 4 times now, and I've loved it more and more every single time I watched it. All the performances are perfect, all the characters are perfect, the ending is perfect. It is literally my favorite animated movie ever for now. I like it even more than Spider-Verse, which is absolutely insane to say. But yeah, that's just how good it was. I absolutely loved it, and I highly recommend it to anybody. Just anybody. It's the perfect movie for everybody. My favorite thing about it is how relatable it can be, even with the insanity that it's, in the middle of this insane zombie apocalypse. It's still really relatable in a weird way. It's just good. It's just so good. I love this to death. Easily my favorite of the year, as much as I love Titane and Petite Maman. and I would be okay if you had those at your number one instead of this. This was just so good. And yeah, that's my extremely long video on all the movies I watched this year. My recording is sitting at like an hour right now, but there was a lot of dead space in that, so we'll see what it actually comes out to. My prediction's like 40 something minutes, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun making this list, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun watching it. Like I said, The Fallout, I will be reviewing it. It's Jenna Ortega's new movie. I will be reviewing that in a couple days, probably. And then next week, I can't actually remember what I had planned to do. Oh yeah, okay. I'm probably gonna have a Matrix. My Matrix video is probably gonna finally come out. Uh, well, Friday, because this is coming out a couple days late. So this Friday will be my Matrix video. Finally, it was supposed to come out months ago, but it's finally out, or it's gonna be out. So stay on the lookout for that. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all of you guys in the next one.